Have you ever caught yourself grumbling about the same everyday tasks, the dishes, the laundry, the endless list of things to do? And then you've wondered, does any of this even matter? Nobody even cares. You are not alone. But what if these mundane moments of your day, what if we actually viewed them as privileges? I know, stay with me. And opportunities to remind your own heart of your worth. Mm. Today, we're going to talk about how to find joy in the ordinary, to stop comparing yourself to others, and to create great moments, even in the middle of the messy, normal day. Welcome to the Courageous and Confident Christian Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Marcy Owen. I'm an advanced certified life coach. I'm trained in nervous system regulation, and I'm also a story coach. I'm happy you're here today. Welcome. I'm going to show you how to manage your mind, regulate your nervous system, and to heal from the stories you've been believing from your life experiences. I'm your self-love and confidence coach, and I will show you how to care about yourself and to stand in your power so that you can be free to live and do what you came here to do. It's your time to shine, my dear. In the mundane, letting go of comparison and creating great moments every day. Well, hello there, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so grateful that you are here today. And I'm also want to welcome those of you that could be here for the first time. Welcome. And I think what you're going to find is there's some really valuable pieces of information for you here to take into your life and to use it, whether you're new or you're some of my regulars, right? So we're going to talk about something that touches every single one of us, whether you're a male or female, but especially as women. And I say that, but then I think men could probably argue the same. So, but most of my audience are women. So, of course, that's who I'm going to address it to. But I believe that even if you're a man listening to this episode, there's lots of nuggets for you, and you will be able to apply everything that I'm saying into your life as well. So, especially as women, we find a lot of things that we do over and over. They're mundane. It's just ordinary. The everyday tasks that fill our lives, but they don't always feel very exciting. They're not very inspiring. And a lot of times they go unappreciated, unnoticed, right? And we can start to wonder, does what I'm doing even matter? I'm kind of wasting my time and my efforts and myself in doing these mundane tasks that nobody cares about, like the ones like the laundry, the dishes, errands, running around or wiping the counters or managing schedules or being the one to initiate, let's do this or let's do that. And, some days it can totally feel like Groundhog Day. Can't it? We start to sigh, maybe grumble a little bit. We might have some resentment creep in. And we might just wonder, is this really what my life is all about? Is this really as good as it's going to get? I had one of those moments recently. I do the laundry on the weekend, and I don't really like to do the laundry. I don't like to fold the clothes and hang them up. And especially the load where I put all of the darks in, not my fave. There's tons of shirts and pants of my husband's and socks to mate. And I find myself dreading having to take care of that load once it's all dry. Lots of folding, lots of sock mating. Oh, and there are so many shirts and pants for me to hang up of my husband's. And a lot of times he doesn't have enough hangers, and I hate it. And I caught myself thinking, I really don't like to do this. I don't like it. And, I felt that familiar frustration. But then I remembered this quote from Mary Morrissey. I am in her mastermind, and I get a morning mentor video from her every morning during the week. And I love them. And there was one that this is what this whole episode is going to be about today. So this episode was inspired by Mary Morrissey. And I wrote her quote in my journal, but as I was writing it, I added my own words, my own sentences, so that it applied to me, but the heart of it is hers. So I want to give credit where credit is due. But this is what Mary said. It's not about impressing anyone. I love this next sentence. It's about impressing upon your own subconscious that you are a person of worth and value, that you are good, that you matter, that you have gifts and talents to offer to the world. You might do a lot of mundane things each day, but you do not have to be mundane as you go about them. You can't make a great life, but you can make great moments. And that's just part of the quote. I'll give you the rest of it as we go along. But isn't that so beautiful? I mean, let's unpack that, because it's not about impressing anyone, which we get into the trap where we feel we just kind of naturally have these patterns where we are trying to do that because we picked up a long time ago that this is how I get love. This is how I get appreciation if I'm, doing things that people compliment me for or are impressed with me. But it's not about that at all. It's about, we're trying to impress them. Let's impress ourselves, right? Let's press upon our subconscious mind that, hey, I matter. What I think and believe about me, like that is more important than these other people. And a lot of times these other people, some of them have names and faces, and a lot of them don't. It's just like, we feel like it's all these people, everybody but ourselves, right? And I don't even know where Mary's words, like I know that I added on that you are good, that you matter, that you have gifts and talents to offer to the world, because it is so true. You are good and you do matter. Every single one of you, you matter. And you all, whether you realize it or not, have gifts, you have strengths, you have talents to offer to your corner of the world. And so we can get caught up while we're doing these ordinary things, not really understanding that what we're doing matters. I love the shift from trying to impress others to impressing upon your own heart. And I added heart instead of subconsciousness, or, like we want whichever works for you, but it worked for me. I want to stamp that into my heart that I matter. right? So let's talk about finding meaning in the mundane. Because the truth is, like I've been talking about, is there's so much of life is just made up of ordinary things. We get into this rhythm in our lives. And, this is what we do every day. On Mondays, I do this. On Tuesdays, I do that. Sundays, I go to church. We can just mindlessly go about living our lives, just existing, so to speak. And I, while I feel like I'm aware of that, I can get caught in that trap in certain tasks for sure. But there's other things where, to me, like there was a birthday dinner for me yesterday with some of my family. And to me, I'm like, this is a special time and I want to make the most of it because it is a privilege to be able to do this. Because then I think about, my nephews whose moms aren't around anymore to celebrate her birthday with her. And so I like to want to be mindful and take advantage of those things. But others, like that haven't experienced that loss, we can just be in the routine of this is what we do and not really recognize or appreciate that this is actually a privilege, you know? But I can get sidetracked and forget that, like when I'm doing the laundry, the colored load, right? So I want you to think about the ordinary doesn't mean unimportant. And I was thinking about this as I was preparing this episode. After all, as young girls or guys, we dreamt of the day that we would be married, that we'd get to be a wife or a husband and a parent and get to do all the things that we're doing right now. We wanted that. It was like a goal, right? It's a milestone. And then we, get into it and the mundane and just the everyday living. And, it can get to be a drag and we can forget it's actually a privilege. I want you to think about it. When we cook a meal or fold towels or clothes or drive our a child to school, or those are all acts of love. We're living the life that we wanted. Yes. These acts that we could think, I don't know if this even matters. They're ways that we can bring comfort or support or nourishment and order to our family and to ourselves. We get stuck when we just go through the moments unconsciously. We miss the beauty in them. We get bored, we get frustrated, we get resentful because we have forgotten that it's a privilege, even though it's simple and it can be boring. But what if instead we allowed those everyday tasks to become tiny acts of mindfulness and presence? Like when you're doing a task, be present with the task. Be mindful. Like maybe as you fold clothes, you breathe deeply and you silently say, you know what? I'm hanging up my husband's shirts because actually I care for him. And this is how I show my love for him. This is how I support him. Or like when you're wiping down the counter and you notice how clean and clear the space becomes, you can whisper to yourself, you know what? I'm creating peace in my home and for myself because I like it clean. This is more than a mindset shift. It's nervous system regulation. Because when we bring awareness to what's right there in front of us, when we're present, even if it's mundane, when we breathe, when we notice, and then we allow gratitude to enter, our body receives the message, oh, you know what? Everything's okay. I'm safe. We're all good. No threat here. This is when the mundane becomes meaningful. When we scale it back to what we really, really, really want in our lives. We wanted the marriage. We wanted the family. We wanted the house. We wanted clothes. We want food. We want counters to wipe because that means we have a house to take care of. Then the ordinary becomes a privilege. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm so grateful I have a house that has counters that I get to wipe down. That it's a safe place that shelters me from storms and from the outside world. Or you know what? I wanted my children. Therefore, it's a privilege to drive them around or to fold these mountains of laundry. You know what? Or support my child through this challenge. Not rescue, support my child through this challenge. Let's talk about the other trap that steals our joy, and that's comparison. Mary Morrissey said, many of us have the tendency to compare our insides to other people's outsides. And Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. Huh. Isn't that the freaking truth? How often do we scroll on social media and you see someone else's perfectly clean home or this picture perfect family photo or their big business win and suddenly feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not measuring up. Wish my life looked like that. I was scrolling through last night and I saw some friends with all dressed up in Halloween costumes, and they'd had a party with their kids and their grandkids. And I'm just like, that would be nice. Wish I could do that. But when my kids don't even live here and my grandkids are in the NICU, can't really do stuff like that. But that's their outsides to my insides because, it can make me feel less than. It can make me feel like my life is not what it's supposed to be or should be or I want it to be. We don't realize that we're comparing what's going on inside, our doubts, our mess, our, not enoughs or this or our shoulds, should look like this, not like that, to someone else's, highlights of the day. Right? And then here's the other thing. Comparison blinds our eyes and blocks our heart. That is something that I added into Mary's quote because it really does. It blinds our eyes from seeing the good in our lives or in ourselves, or from being able to recognize the strengths that you've acquired or who you've become on your journey. It blocks your heart from feeling gratitude for your life and what you already have. It's the thief. It's a thief. Comparison is a big, fat thief. Because before we know it, instead of creating great moments, we're criticizing, we're complaining, and we're disconnecting from our family or even from our own light. But here's the truth I want you to hear today. You were never meant to be like that somebody else. You were never supposed to be like your family was never supposed to be like their family or your home like their home. You were never meant to be them or her. You were meant to be you. You are uniquely you. There is no one else in the world just like you. No one has your heart. No one has your strengths. No one has the things that you care about and that you love and that you're praying for and how you comfort other people or support other people. No one has that beautiful combination like you do. We have our quirks. We have our gifts. We have our rhythm. We have our way of doing things, the way you fold towels or mate socks, the way you cook meals, the way you pray, or speak to a friend who needs encouragement. Those are all uniquely you. And if you weren't here, there would be a big void on this earth. Yeah, there would be. All the things that you do, all the things that make up you, they are your fingerprints of love that you leave in this world. What if that were true? What if all the things you do, even if they're mundane and even if they don't seem like they matter, what if they are your fingerprints that you're leaving? They're your mark that you are leaving in your family, with your friends, for yourself, in this world. Because that's what we're doing. But we'll miss it if we're comparing, if we're not recognizing the privilege. So each morning, my goal for my scripture study, my connection with God, is I use the We Believe app. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it is sweet. It's great. It gives you a verse of the day, and then there's a short video of somebody summarizing it and giving, explaining it to you. It's really great. It gives you, even you can click on links to more scriptures or talks or songs that support that focus for the day. And I want to share the verse today, and because it fits in beautifully with what I'm talking about today. And it said, "Verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, my," and in the scriptures is my servant Joseph Smith. Okay. But I want you, so it's 124:1. I want you to look it up, and I want you to instead put your name, replace your name, and then read it. Actually, I wrote mine out, but I replaced and put my name in there as I was reading it, and so I want you to notice, like, how does that land for you? So let me start over. "Verily, thus say the Lord unto you," and I put my dear Marcy in there because in my patriarchal blessing, I am referred to as dear Marcy by the Lord numerous times. So if he's speaking to me, I'm going to use how he speaks to me in my blessing. So, my dear Marcy, I am well pleased with your offering and your acknowledgments, which you have made. For unto this end I have raised you up, that I might show forth my wisdom through the weak things of the earth. And so I was journaling that this morning, and I put my name in there, like I said, and I noticed how I felt when I just read it, through that way. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this study a little bit deeper, and I'm going to write it out, and I'm going to journal about it. And so I noticed how I felt when I wrote Marcy dear. And then as I wrote each, I'm well pleased. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that from God? With what you're doing. I've raised you up for this so that I might show forth my wisdom through the weak things of the earth. And I noticed how I felt as I wrote it out. I noticed the thoughts that came up. And I felt touched when I heard it and wrote it. And then that freaking, lower brain needs to get involved. That critical voice needs to get involved. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if that would be true about me. I'm not sure. Are you really doing all that you should be doing and could be doing? You could be a lot better. And I'm like, no, you're not going to list all the things that you think that I should be doing because I know what I am doing and what I am giving. And so I noticed the negative voice, even though I just had feelings, to the opposite of love and appreciation and acknowledgement. And I just wrote the question, what if this was true for me right now with what I'm doing in my life? What if it was true? What if that's what he would say to me? And opening myself up to this question, I had flashed before my mind moments when I knew without a doubt that God was with me, like on coaching calls or when I'm creating things. But like I remembered how last week, man, I coached all afternoon and I get thrown different situations after different situations from client to client and within a client's call. I can get a myriad of different topics to coach on or to help heal. I remember in the moment when I was coaching things that are coming out of my mouth and marveling, wow, that's pretty amazing. I was even telling my husband that after, that afternoon of coaching, that it's so amazing how we are raised up to do the work, to do the things that help our neighbors, our people, our family, our friends, our clients. We are doing the work. It just looks different for each one of us. And I know that because I feel the Spirit help me to make me wise, even though I've had lots of training and lots of experience, I know when the Spirit is there making me wise and just helping me just easily shift and adapt to whatever my client needs in that moment. You know, the scripture doesn't say whatever impressive thing you do. It says your offerings and your acknowledgments. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So when you're wiping, down a dirty counter, or wiping fingerprints off the wall, or you're sitting in carpool or driving your kids around, or you're folding the laundry, especially the colored load, or you're making dinner, or how about even paying bills, or you're working with clients or coworkers, you're with your spouse, working through something or enjoying something. Those moments become sacred moments when you bring your heart to them instead of just like, we're tuned out, this is on autopilot. We don't want to do that. We want to be present in the moment. And when we do that, we're impressing upon our own heart that you are a woman of worth and value. And that your worth does not come from applause or approval or comparison. It comes from your creator. And it comes from who you are. I love this quote. Your worth is not in the doing. Your worth is in you as a being. Okay, so here's your invitation today. Fast from comparison. Fast from needing approval of others. And instead, create great moments. Be mindful, be present. Be present for the good that's already in your life. Speak kindly about yourself. Smile. Smile at your reflection in the mirror. Whisper, I matter. I am enough. In fact, do what I'm doing today. I wrote down 5 I am statements this morning. You keep those statements handy with you, and then you read them throughout the day 5 different times. You can read them or you can say them out loud. Say them out loud. Let your ears, let your subconscious, let your heart hear it. The words you speak, I am, and whatever comes after it are some of the most powerful words you will ever speak, because your heart and your mind and your subconsciousness is listening. All right. So I am. What do you need to hear? 5 statements. You may not be able to create this great life overnight, but you can create great moments. 1 load of laundry, 1 meal, 1 deep breath at a time. Because when you feel those moments with presence, with love or gratitude, and you remember, oh yeah, I actually do want this. I chose this life years ago. You're not just doing chores. You're nurturing your heart, your home, and your spirit. You're living the life you wanted. So take a deep breath with me, right? Inhale through the nose. Fill it up. Exhale through the mouth. Let that settle. You are not mundane. You are magnificent. And you can make the ordinary beautiful. Okay? So until next time, be gentle with yourself and keep creating great moments. Because you know what? That is what courageous and confident women and men do. All right. I love you, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to the Courageous and Confident Christian Mom podcast. If you're interested in taking what you learned on this podcast to the next level, we have to talk. Schedule a free clarity call with me. Go to www.marcyowen.com and schedule your free call with me. You're one decision away from the life that you want.